What if one thing could add years to your life, sharpen your mind, boost your mood, and reshape your body? Well, it exists. It's science-backed, and it's changing lives, especially for women. In this episode of Message Meg, we reveal the truth and why it's the real fountain of youth. So, get ready to rewrite everything you thought you knew about fitness. This isn't about bulking up, it's about building you up. And the conversation starts now. Welcome to Message Meg, everyone. I'm Meg Farris. Before we reveal what this fountain of youth and health is, I want you to meet Emily Chopin, Lacey Springer, and Bradley Sneller, and welcome to you all. So Bradley, we're going to tell people it's weightlifting, and you have a gym called Stack Coaching, and a lot of your clientele are women.
I feel like you just gave the secret away.
Yes. So, but a lot of them are scared. They're going to start and they're going to bulk up. But that's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, most people are under the misconception that weightlifting makes you big. The reality is that a calorie surplus makes you big. Mm-hmm. The more muscle mass you have, the easier it is to burn fat. So if you have a relative caloric maintenance or in a caloric deficit and you're lifting weight, you're gonna end up just looking great.
Mm-hmm. Well, you didn't start weightlifting till you were 28, and most guys start in the gym, their teens, right around puberty, that type of thing. But it changed your body. Why did you decide to start really getting into the right kind of weightlifting?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to do for so long. I was overweight my entire life, and by overweight, I meant I didn't want to take my shirt off when I went to the pool. I've made fun of most of my life, which gave me a weird self-confidence that was kind of hidden thing. I'm not really sure. But I was playing intramural soccer. I tore my ACL, my MCL, fractured my tibia. And during my recovery process with my physical therapist, I fell in love with it. And then I was going 3 to 4 times a week. It started to change my life. He was teaching me the proper things to do. And then I just went full force into it from there.
And it did change your body. Okay, to our ladies. So Emily, we'll start with you. I didn't believe that you didn't have these cut arms and cut body before, and you proved me wrong. And I should say all of y'all are in your 40s, so it wasn't like you've been lifting weights since you were a teenager.
No.
And what got you, what clicked in your brain, I'm gonna go start doing this?
Well, I had 2 kids in 2 years, and I had super, like Bradley said, super low self-confidence. I never would have gone to the beach with girlfriends or anything like that. And I was completely miserable. And I started going to a gym right by my house at like 5 o'clock in the morning before everybody woke up. And just the way I felt was a pretty instantaneous difference. But then, as I aged a little bit over the course of the years, I was really in this rut that I think most women my age are in, where I was taking Pilates classes and yoga classes and bar classes and doing cardio boot camps 5 and 6 days a week. And it was absolutely serving me no purpose whatsoever. Until a girlfriend had started going to Stacked about 2.5 years ago and convinced me to switch and to try something different, which I was so hesitant to do.
Yeah, why?
Well,
what did you think lifting?
I thought we were going to be flipping tires and dragging weights, and I had stalked them on Instagram, and people like Lacey throw around 300 pounds like it's nothing. And I was like, there's absolutely no way I can do that. And so, obviously I did not pick up 300 pounds on day one. I still don't pick up 300 pounds, but it was just really fun and really life-changing immediately.
It is, and we should note, you have a full-time job, you are married, you have children, I mean, you're doing carpool, you're doing all those things and fit this hour in to completely change your body. Lacey, what's your story?
I've been active my entire life. I did play sports and everything, but never weightlifted. And then my early adult years, I did a lot of running. I had I was a young mom, and while she was playing soccer and piano, I would just run, and always wondered why I didn't see results. Why don't I look toned and fit? I would even, I didn't want to take my shorts off when I wear a bikini, and I probably wish I looked, that small then.
Oh, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt,
And same kind of, you see the CrossFit gyms and all, and you think, oh, you're gonna bulk up, and anyway, just a little bit of strength training, you start seeing the results and the definition, combined with healthy eating, which I think, just goes hand in hand. And I feel amazing. I feel younger than ever, more energetic than ever. And I wasn't always lifting heavy weight. When I first started Stacked, I was just right where everyone else was. It's just fun to build and watch yourself get stronger, and
empowering.
It's so empowering.
And it's in not a competitive way, but in such a measurable success, because I mean, even when I go back and look, because we log our weight and our progress, I look at something that I remember at the time was incredibly difficult that is now really nothing, So it is such a measurable improvement week to week, month to month.
Yeah. It is, and it is fun. I know people think, oh, it's working out, but when you do it with a group and everyone's cheering everyone on and the music's going, it becomes, I call it recess.
Yeah, sometimes I don't even have to wash my hair afterwards. You don't even sweat.
I've always referred to it as adult recess. We need that hour to just unwind and let it,
And there's something, Bradley, you said empowering. There is something about, for all of us, our personal, record is completely different. But the other day on chest press, I hit a number that I thought, wow, I don't think I've ever hit that number. And you just, within yourself, you're not competing with anyone else, you're proud.
Yeah.
Do you see that when you hit something?
Yeah, I mean, not so much anymore, because I've spent all this time building my personal best, where now it's just about how do I grow my business, serve others, and be a dad, right? And so for me, it's finding this balance in my life after I've spent so much time transforming my body. But I really, my main goal every day is to help women like Emily and Lacey build self-confidence, become empowered, find the body they've always wanted.
And talk about being empowered, it's not just in lifting weights. How did it spill over to other parts of your life? Did you find yourself wanting to eat better and eat differently?
I wasn't as starving when I stopped running constantly. I mean, and doing all that boot camp. I mean, that's a huge. I was starving by 10 a.m. and so I don't have that ravenous hunger with weightlifting. And I still run, but now I run because I want to, not because I'm constantly trying to lose weight.
Because you feel like you need to.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very different mindset where I think women start at age 12 and we're on a diet until we die.
Yes.
And so it definitely that kind of inner dialogue has eased up so much more. But yeah, I really am always in my head trying to eat protein with my jelly beans on the side or whatever. But
when you have more muscle, your metabolism is faster, so you don't have to restrict calories as much. Do you find that, Lacey?
I found 100%. When you're eating protein, you're staying full longer and you're building the muscle, and it's much easier to maintain over the years. I've fluctuated because I was never taught how to properly eat and nutrition, and so I thought you just didn't eat if you want to lose weight. And now you don't have to fully restrict yourself. If you're building muscle and maintaining it, it's just easier.
Do y'all find that people, and we've talked about this before, there are still people out there who think, especially women, who are kind of hard on women and say, oh, your arms have too many muscles. It's like, my arms can't get enough muscle. I'm the oldest I've ever been, and this is the most muscles I've ever had. Because people think, oh, you get older, you can't build muscle, you do lose muscle. But to me, muscles in a woman's arms are beautiful. I think we're getting away from the just be skinny and that's pretty. Right, Bradley? Isn't that what men think?
I think men definitely think differently than they did a long time ago, right? I think men like a fit looking female,
rather than just starving skinny looking.
Yeah, and I think as a whole, whether you're a man into a man or a man into a woman, we want a fit look, right? And so while it's just interesting that kind of happened at the same time that women started embracing weightlifting, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think the biggest problem they have right now are other women saying you shouldn't look like that.
Well, that's totally. Yes, you've had that happen, Emily. What's happened to you?
I've had friends who haven't seen me in a while make comments that are not, out and out rude, but there's definitely an underlying tone of disapproval. And I have had people say that it's too masculine, and I just laugh because it's like, thank you for noticing. I know I don't look masculine, so that's fine. But I do know deep down inside that that's their insecurity, and that right, and that's their way of saying, just like I said, oh, I don't want to flip tires and drag chains. That's just that.
We don't flip tires and drag chains.
We do, right. Right. But that's like that's just like this easy excuse to be like, I don't want to be bulky and I don't want to flip tires. And I mean, I think it's pretty cool the people who do flip tires. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But,
We do.
I don't like the girls that break their nails.
No, definitely want to break my nails. Look, my trainer years and years ago, when he was like showing me how to hold the bar and he was squeezing on my nails, I said, "You better not break my nails." And he looked me dead in the eye and he said, "If the body ain't right, no man's looking at the fingernails. I promise you." We had a fun relationship. But how is y'all's mental health, your mood change? The endorphins I get from that hour of weightlifting every morning, it just bathes my brain in happiness. I can't explain. Do y'all find that it helps your mood?
Oh, I can't imagine not working out every day. If no matter how I feel, once I walk in there and once I leave, I feel great.
Yeah, that is my 1 hour. That is the only thing I do for myself. I will not sacrifice it for anything. I won't schedule a doctor's appointment.
Yes.
I don't care if my kid is throwing up. It is literally the 1 hour that I
and people
take
don't
for
understand
myself.
that because I treat it as an appointment. It's on my books. It's an appointment.
It's
I
an
can't do
addiction,
anything
too.
for that within reason. And people don't understand that. They're like,
Megan,
you have to go to the gym.
It's interesting that Emily said that's her hour for herself, where she's not, taking care of kids, everyone else, right? And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to weightlifting and women. And I'm a man, so what do I know? But we happen to, 75% of our gym are females in between the ages of 35 and 55, right? Like that is our main demographic, But I think so often, your role in life is to serve everyone else. What do you get to do for yourself?
Right.
And this is it.
100%.
And now you get to become empowered, do things that you can see, measure success over time. And it's gotta feel great,
I'll tell you, the other thing is, as you age, bone density is so important. And I actually had the radiologist come out on my DEXA scan. I had a DEXA scan, and she was looking at me like, "This is impossible. How old are you?" And she said, "Your bone density is better than any 30-year-old who's ever come in
Is this
here."
recently?
That's
Yes, this is in last. And I said,
That's awesome.
"Okay, I weightlift and have been weightlifting, so I've built the bone." And I said, "B, I'm on my estrogen replacement, so I'm not losing. My bones aren't becoming Swiss cheese." And there are other women who are 50s, 60s who already have osteoporosis. And here the doctor's saying it's better than a 30-year-old. So there's those little things that can kill you down the road, that just within yourself, when you go to bed at night, you say, "Wow, I'm protecting myself from something," and that helps.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you're talking about. So when we are in a weightlifting culture, okay, the other parts that come with that, like Lacey said, is the nutrition aspect.
Okay.
Right? And so as a group strength training company, so what we do nutrition coaching, we do strength training, mostly for women. We try to talk about how those things work together. And one of the things that we discuss all the time is how adequate protein combined with weightlifting fights against sarcopenia, right? Which is the degradation of muscle mass over time as we age. And I think I cannot speak for other fitness genres, okay, or modalities, but in a weightlifting culture, that is a absolute utmost tip of the spear talk, right? Like, we want you to be healthy, we want you to be fit. Everyone wants to look hot, but those things come with it as well.
So for every hour you exercise, you live 3 hours longer, which is so interesting. And what the doctors...
You are never going to die.
Yeah. I know, it's a little obsessive, but the doctors tell us it takes, that was a good one, it takes a year to get to your optimal genetic where you can be. But even if you stopped, you get back into it, you get there much faster because your brain actually forms connections with your muscles that don't go away. And I thought that was very encouraging to people who have, stopped and gone off and done, something else for a little while. And one of my favorite sayings is, abs are made in the kitchen. You don't get abs from doing billions of sit-ups. You do the sit-ups, you have a strong core, but to make them show, you have to have the
You know
nutrition
what
part that go with
makes
it.
better abs than sit-ups underneath your nutrition? I just
I
stole
give
your
up.
thing, sorry.
What?
Weightlifting.
Yes, absolutely. So I hope people at home can understand that this is life-changing. And the studies that show that it increases how long your cells live, it actually makes each cell have the formula in it that makes each cell live longer, which is interesting. And I don't want women to think that you're going to bulk up or that it's hard to get started, because you start off easy and it's incredible how fast you get into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Bradley was talking about culture earlier, and I think, again, I have done like every kind of fitness class.
Same here.
Especially in those last 3 years before I went to Stacked, and it was not a group effort, that's for sure. And then I will never forget the first day I went to the gym, my friend who encouraged me to switch over wasn't taking the same class I was, I knew no one there. And one of the guys that we take morning class with opened the door for me, showed me around, and I was not expecting that. I had never worked out with men before, and I was instantaneously shocked at the external motivation that everyone gives each other. That does make it so much less intimidating. Everyone has a bad day, everyone has a good day, but the culture of weightlifting, I do think, is so different than running on the treadmill.
Good point, because we're all encouraging each other to do your best. It's not
100%.
like we're encouraging you to lift the same as me, because
Absolutely.
genetically it's impossible. Okay, Bradley, you had said that there were some women who didn't want to come on because they didn't want to show their befores, even though and I thought, you know what, it's not fair for me to ask y'all to come on and show your befores and for me not to do it. So even though it's going to burn people's retinas out, I'll show you my befores and afters. So there you go. Now you've seen it, and I just want to be just as vulnerable as everyone else to show that we can all improve. All right, y'all have been great. Thank you very much.
Meg.
Thanks, Meg.
When we come back, our fitness experts have written books, been on national TV shows, and published new findings, as well as changed the lives and health of everyone from children to world-class athletes and movie stars. Welcome back to Message Meg, everyone. All the online video advice from gym trainers is nowhere near the knowledge and expertise of our next two guests. Fitness expert Mackie Shulstone has trained elite military, tennis champ Serena Williams, NFL players, champion prize fighters, and Terminator star Linda Hamilton. And Dr. Melinda Southern has published studies and worked with obese children, changing the course of their health. She's a licensed clinical exercise physiologist whose Trim Kids program is recognized by the National Cancer Institute and the U.S. Surgeon General for the use at the YMCA. And all people have to do is look at, this is just some of the publications in front of us that the two of y'all have done. Okay, so let's start with strength training. And a lot of women, mostly, Dr. Southern, a lot of women think, oh, I'm going to bulk up. Oh, I'm going to look too big. It's going to make my neck big. But it's the opposite of what it does.
Actually, it makes them look leaner and less thick because the muscles contract and the tissue around it is pulled with it. And strength training has benefits to those who want to lose weight, reduces abdominal obesity. So if you strength train, you're actually going to have a toner physique than if you don't strength
More
train.
compact.
More
Now,
compact, not big and bulky. Big and bulky requires power training. And, Mackie will talk about that, I'm sure. When you power train, you lift heavy weights against, very rapidly, and you take in a lot of calories to get those big muscles. And while women can increase their muscle size, strength training, or resistance training, as it's sometimes called, doesn't do that. It just makes you leaner.
I think a lot of people maybe see people who have been on steroids or something in these competitions and they think, oh, that's what happens. But that is not naturally what happens. And Mackie, you train women and you train them for whatever sport they're in, but you've always taught people that you carry fat around, muscle carries you around. So muscle is lean and compact, and women actually get smaller and keep fat weight off more easily.
Well, Dr. Southern and I were talking before the segment. It's all about your health span versus lifespan, and it's all about a new term called metabolic age. And when you talk about the preservation of lean muscle, especially after the age of 40, when we as humans can, especially women, can be subject to what's called sarcopenia, the aging loss of muscle, and dynapenia, the aging loss of strength. So it's critical that not only, as Dr. Southern pointed out, that whether you're a man or a woman, that you progressively start to include strength training of all the major muscle groups, and you back it up with the proper amount of protein, which is going to change between someone younger and someone my age. I'm 74. And so strength training and adequate protein at my age is totally different than, say, one of my sons who's 33.
Okay, so what, just not with a lot of mathematic formulas, but how much protein does one need in 70s, in 60s, 50s, 40s to maintain and build muscle?
Well, when you think about it, that muscle is 70% water and 30% amino acids, you have to look at the fact that, let's take me for instance, I'm very physically active. And as a result, my requirement is at a baseline of 1.6 grams per every 2.2 pounds. Now, if I was going to be really specific, I would do a body composition with a DEXA scan or some of the more advanced the determination, and I would base it on the actual pounds of lean muscle I have. Remember, fat-free tissue includes bone, so you have to be able to get right down to how much muscle you have and feed the muscle, not the fat.
And a lot of those scales now tell you how much of your weight is water, how much is fat. But just for the average Joe, how many, what is it, half your body weight times, how many grams that you need? What is it? What's the simple formula?
I mean, maybe even more simply is just, you should have protein at each meal. And, according to your body weight will determine how many grams of protein you need. So it's hard to give a number for each person. But to skip protein at a meal is then telling the body it's not going to have the essential protein to support the metabolism. If you don't support the metabolism, you can't regenerate muscle tissue, you can't regenerate brain tissue. You begin to become metabolically sick, as Mackie said.
All right, well, you brought up the brain. Some of the studies that I've been reading amaze me. Just doing weightlifting changes your brain. It protects you from dementia.
Yes.
And we've been taught as women, jog, 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 get on the elliptical, on the stair climber. But what does it do for your brain?
Well, when you have sarcopenia, as Mackie talked about,
which is muscle loss.
Muscle loss, when you lose muscle tissue, along with that becomes brain tissue loss, brain circulation problems. Parts of your brain cells do not renew, and this leads to cognitive impairment. So there's a direct relationship between how much muscle mass you have and how well your brain functions because of that. So if you allow yourself to sit in a rocking chair after you retire for years and you don't move those muscles and they atrophy or they lose their structure, you won't be able to do the metabolism that supports the brain. The brain will not have the chemicals circulating around to keep it from shrinking.
And just weightlifting changes the way your muscle metabolizes your food, and so you're less likely to become diabetic?
Well, yeah, because insulin uptake happens in the muscle tissue. We've talked about this before. So if you don't have muscles who are muscles that are metabolically active, you can't use the insulin to lower your blood sugar. That then starts this cycle toward metabolic dysfunction. Your metabolism isn't working. Then when you eat, instead of the food that you eat as fuel going to your muscles to generate energy, they get shunted to your gut, to your abdominal fat. That creates these nasty fat cells that get sucked up in your bloodstream and then get deposited in all your organs, including the brain.
Interesting.
Metabolically sick means everything's sick.
Everything.
If your metabolism is not running at its most efficient point, you will become a sick person.
And Mackie, one of the things you're concerned about is people who are on the GLP-1 injections who don't weightlift as well because they're losing muscle, and that causes problems?
Well, you know, Meg, a long time ago, I had my comprehensive weight management program at Oxnard, 7 years, EJ, 6 years, and St. Charles Parish Hospital, 2 years. And we did metabolic studies on everybody coming in. And one of the things we saw, and you talk about specifically women, is that if you're not looking at how much muscle, lean tissue you have, and then typing it to protein, as Dr. Southern says, your changes in metabolism. But you realize that even on a calorie-restricted program, you can lose as much as 15% of your lean tissue. Studies are now conclusive that the GLP-1, the glucagon-like peptides, will have as much as 40% of your scale weight loss in muscle.
Okay, but what if you weight lift? What if you eat the protein and weight lift?
Well, you've hedged your bet as long as you're doing a full body. But remember, you're talking about a peptide that a drug is controlling. So even when you're doing the lean muscle, the development, and you're getting the right amount of protein, you still have an inherent risk. Why do you think all Pfizer and all Glaxo are all scrambling now to find a way to put something into the GLP and the GIP1, that's glucose insulinogenic peptide, to stop this major muscle loss? And the reason, metabolism. If I lose that muscle, I'm as young as I'm metabolically active. So even with all the weight loss, you're never going to achieve your ideal weight.
And that's because the more muscle you have, the more sped up your metabolism is. The more muscle you lose, your metabolism slows down. And then you can't eat little enough to maintain that. So it's even more important for women and men to weight lift when they're on these life-saving injections that are helping people who could never lose weight.
And especially women as they transition to menopause, because they lose ovarian function. There's a hormone called follicle-stimulating hormone that's directly related to aging. And if they don't strength train during that period, then the menopause itself causes you to reduce lean mass. It changes the metabolism toward not wanting to keep your lean mass. So it's essential that women, as they enter menopause, exercise, number one. But strength training is not an option. Well, it is half of the exercise program. You have to strength train.
Because as you age, you're losing muscle. Part of the strength training is just getting back what you're losing. And I've told both of you this story, and I want to tell our viewers. When I was in my late 40s, I gained 20 pounds in 2 months, and the fatigue was crushing. I was miserable. I knew something was wrong. 20 pounds in 2 months on a 5'4" frame. That's a lot of weight. And my father, who was a world-class OBGYN and a pioneer in hormone replacement, I said, something's wrong with me. I think my thyroid's off, because I've been on thyroid since I was 30. Checked my blood. He said, no, you're taking the right amount of thyroid supplement. Then he figured it out. 2 days later, he said, I want to check your free testosterone, not only your total, but your free testosterone. It was at 0. And he said, women who've been on the pill for a long time, their ovaries shut down making testosterone before they shut down making estrogen, progesterone. He put me on my testosterone and I was back. And now, all these years later, now that I'm on my testosterone replacement every day, and just to be clear, I'm not taking more than a normal premenopausal woman would have in her blood. Now, when I go to the gym, I can build muscle because I'm getting results because the ingredients are in my body. And Mackie, you're a big proponent of people replacing their hormones.
If you're throwing all the cards on the table, I have been hypogonadic, that means low testosterone, and I may have played college football at Tulane as the lightest person in the college at 143 pounds. I could have very well been testosterone deficient, but I had no symptoms. I've been on a testosterone injection for 15 years, every 2 weeks. And if I don't, my risk of diabetes goes up, and my risk of a fracture from a bone fracture. And I'm not doing this out, like I'm injecting myself. I'm under medical supervision.
Of course.
I'm doing lab testing every 3-4 times a year. So you talk about the women that I think menopause, andropause
for men,
men we quietly cover everything up behind our coat, but there are so many men out there suffering needlessly.
And it makes a difference. And when you see the results in the gym and feel like going to the gym, and just before we close, you believe that, and you have seen children who had obesity at a very young age, put in strength training, and it changed the course of their health.
Absolutely. That was one of my first recommendations to them, was to get into some type of activity that builds strength. And for little kids, it's not necessarily lifting hand weights or bar weights. It could just be playing on the playground, doing monkey bars, pulling, climbing. For older kids, they can actually do structured exercise. But there are sports that are very beneficial for strength training, martial arts for one, you know. And so some of the children would start these activities, and all of a sudden their metabolism was so better at using the food that they ate. They just started dropping the fat weight, and we would measure like the DEXA, like Mackie talked about. They were losing fat weight because we were restricting their calories. We were giving them high protein, low carb. This was the program that they were on, because these were very, very overweight children, Meg. And you added strength training along with the aerobic training that they were already doing, and it made a huge difference.
I guess the main thing, and we'll close with this, is that even when you're resting, sleeping, lying on the sofa being a couch potato, when you have more muscle in your body, your metabolism goes faster and burns more calories.
That's it.
Thank you both. Such a wealth of information. Now let's take a look at the message-meg inbox. Today, our question comes from Alyssa. She's in downtown New Orleans. She wants to know, how does your period and menstrual cycle affect your workouts? So here is what the science shows. For athletes, when you have your period, and for some, it can limit or negatively affect your peak endurance performance. But here's the good news for all of us. The current evidence suggests that 45 to 60 minutes of working out just 3 times or more a week, regardless of intensity, may provide a clinically significant reduction in menstrual pain. So exercise improves symptoms of PMS, cramps, depression, and anxiety. And now, a final thought. Don't be scared to lift weights. You're not going to become bulky. 5 pounds of muscle is compact and takes up a lot less space than 5 pounds of fat. And remember, you carry fat around, but muscle carries you around. And from personal experience, give it a few months and you will find that your body and mind start craving those feel-good chemicals that come with lifting. Thanks for joining us. I'm Meg Farris.